Migrating your systems to the cloud. Topic of my conversation today with Richard Stratner. He is Director of Product Marketing with Texas. Hello, Richard.
How are you?
Good to see you. Thank you very much for being with me. So the cloud, not exactly a new subject,
No.
but worthy of discussion nonetheless. What are the benefits of migrating to the cloud?
The benefits of migrating to the cloud are actually manifold. There are many of them. A couple that I like to point out are the cost savings, which is sometimes counterintuitive because we're asking people to invest, right, in a new technology. But by being able to outsource your entire infrastructure and your servers and and much of your IT group to a third party, you have the opportunity to divorce yourself from that cost as well as the capital expense and move it to an operating expense. Moving from CapEx to OpEx has financial implications and longer term cost savings. And that's just one of the benefits. I think another one that comes to mind is this notion of continuous innovation. And when we think about on-premise software, it's a fixed thing for which there are updates on an occasional basis. But with a cloud-based system, you have the ability to consume the innovations that are being delivered by your cloud provider at speed, right? You have that opportunity to just have them flowing to you without significant updates. And then lastly, I think what we hear a lot about right now is this notion of agility and scalability. And certainly in supply chain, there is a great deal of dynamics going on right now. And the ability to more simply pivot, scale as needed, or reduce as needed is one of the other aspects that I think the cloud provides people.
Well, again, it's not a new technology exactly, but the fact that we're having this conversation at all suggests to me that there are a number of companies that have yet not realized the benefits of the cloud. Is that in fact the case? Is there still a lot of on-premises software out there?
There is absolutely, and you know, one of the things I like about it is the fact that it's real. The cloud is no longer an emerging technology. We've been talking about it for a while, but there's validity to it. This is no longer an untested concept, and the overall market is moving to the cloud over a period of time. Obviously, not everybody moves at the same pace, but there's a degree of inevitability as well as established practices that allow that transition to move more fluidly, I think.
Okay, so what do? I just flip a switch and I'm in the cloud, right?
Done. Easy peasy. Yes.
All right, let's be real. What are the actual challenges involved in migrating to the cloud?
Right. So there are two that come to mind, and one is with the notion of user adoption, right? Which is true with all technologies. People will say, this doesn't look like that which I had. I'm not familiar with this system. And that takes a period of time, but that's not unique to the cloud. I think the bigger challenges that people face when migrating to the cloud is this notion of customizations and modifications. So effectively, you've built a system over periods of time. And if you're running on-prem, you've likely had that system for many, many years. To a degree that is very, very specific. And then what happens when you move to the cloud? Do those go away? And the answer is not necessarily, but it does provoke some hard questions because the way that something has been done doesn't necessarily mean that is the way it should be done going forward.
So you're not necessarily porting a piece of software from your on-premises server to someone else's server and have it be exactly the same application? Are there changes that make it more suitable for the cloud? Or
there are, I think of it, an example that I use sometimes is this notion of how we used to take photographs. I used to take pictures of my daughters and get them processed at a 1 hour photo, put them in the mail, and then send them on to my parents. Right. And that was a perfectly sound process. But replicating that when you have the opportunity to simply email them or text them to your parent makes more sense. So changes in workflows as well as making decisions about what makes sense in a new scenario is one of the things that the migration to the cloud affords you.
What about timing? When is it a good time? When to engage in a migration to the cloud?
It's funny. As something of a cloud evangelist, my answer is always right now.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were going to say.
But I think going back to what I said earlier about this notion of inevitability, there is a migration to the cloud that is happening across the board, right?
Yeah.
That is, you're going to be in that place at some point in time. And so because it takes a degree of analysis to kind of understand what you're looking to do, beginning that process now so that you are not forced to do it. And I think taking control allows organizations to be able to say, right, we're going to make this decision affirmatively, not necessarily defensively.
Yeah. Sometimes, a lot of times, technology providers make decisions for you in terms of how things are going to operate. Do you think eventually they'll just close down the on-premises option and the cloud will be the way to go? Or
that's happening right now.
Yeah.
There are, you see older systems being de-supported, on-premises systems being migrated. I wouldn't say in a forced fashion, but in a strongly encouraged fashion, and taking ownership of that transition and doing it when it makes most sense, such that you minimize your own business disruption, is really the reason that I think engaging the conversation, if not the actual migration, in the immediate makes most sense.
Great point. Richard, tell me a little bit about Texas. Who are you guys and where do you fit into this whole picture?
So Texas is a supply chain organization. We're based in Montreal, Canada. We've been here for about 40 years, working primarily in complex distribution and healthcare. But we do have a platform on which we deliver a number of modules, all based in the cloud. And so we live what I'm talking about right now, where we have customers who have been with us for decades and are at that point of transition, and facilitating that transition is something that we're looking forward to doing with them.
Well, thanks again for that information about Texas, as well as this discussion about the cloud. And I'm happy to say that our listeners and watchers can look forward to an upcoming webinar in which Supply Chain Brain hosts Texas. We'll talk more about this subject in depth, and we're really looking forward to that. So thank you very much for your time, Richard.
Thank you.
I have been speaking with Richard Stratner of Texas. Thank you very much for watching.